Once upon a time, in a land far away, there was a man named Abraham. He was a righteous man, known for his deep faith in God. Abraham had been promised by God that he would become the father of many nations. But there was one problem. He had no children of his own. He and his wife, Sarah, were old, and it seemed impossible. Yet Abraham trusted God's promise with all his heart. When Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah 90, God kept his promise. Sarah gave birth to a son whom they named Isaac. Abraham loved Isaac dearly, for this child was the miracle of his old age and the fulfillment of God's promise. But one day God spoke to Abraham in a way that would test his faith more than ever before. He called out to Abraham and said, "Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. There, I want you to offer him as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you." Abraham was stunned. Isaac was not just his son, he was the one who would carry on God's promise. The thought of sacrificing Isaac was heartbreaking, but Abraham did not hesitate. He trusted in God's plan, even when he couldn't understand it. Early the next morning, Abraham gathered the necessary items for the journey: wood for the fire, a knife, and his son Isaac. He set off with 2 servants toward the distant mountain, the place where God had instructed him to go. After 3 days of travel, Abraham saw the mountain in the distance. As they neared the mountain, Abraham told the servants to wait behind. "Stay here with the donkey," he said, "while Isaac and I go up to worship. We will return to you soon." Isaac, curious, carried the wood for the offering on his back. As they walked up the mountain, he looked around and asked, "Father, I see the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the offering?" Abraham replied, "God will provide the lamb, my son." When they reached the top of the mountain, Abraham built an altar, laid the wood upon it, and then bound Isaac, placing him on top of the wood. His heart must have been breaking as he raised the knife to sacrifice his beloved son. But just as he was about to strike, an angel of the Lord called out from heaven, "Abraham! Abraham!" Abraham stopped, his heart racing, and answered, "Here I am." The angel said, "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not harm him. Now I know that you fear God because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." At that moment Abraham looked up, and in the thicket nearby he saw a ram caught by its horns. God had indeed provided a sacrifice. Abraham took the ram and offered it as a burnt offering in place of Isaac. Abraham named the place, "The Lord Will Provide," because God had shown that he is faithful to his promises and will always provide when we trust in him. Abraham and Isaac returned to the servants, and together they went back home, grateful for God's mercy and provision. From that day forward, Abraham's faith in God was even stronger, and God's promise to bless him and his descendants remained true. And so the story of Abraham and Isaac became a powerful testament of faith, obedience, and God's provision.